There's a Maya Angelou quote, and it's a classic quote, which is people will forget what you did, what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. If you make a connection with someone because you simply just reached out to them, that's what's going to lead to them remembering the experience. They might forget the drink. They might forget the music that was on. They might forget the color of the paint on the walls, but they won't forget how you made them feel when you were offering yourself to them socially while you were making their drink.
How are you two blokes feeling after the craziest day in Valor coffee history?
The beatdown?
The beatdown.
Really
Hey, we need a drink. Cheers.
We're drinking
Cheers.
$20 rum.
Out of little 1 ounce.
To be clear, $20 for the whole 1.75 bottle.
It's not that cheap.
It's like $23 for that.
No, it's not. For 1.75?
Yes.
Guys, do not argue on
it's
air.
Literally not. The 750 is 20.
You want to wager?
Yes.
What do you
How
wanna
much you
wager?
put on this?
One of those bottles.
You can just take the rest home if you win.
Okay.
All right, just looking it up.
Let me get out the Total Wine app.
While you're looking, that crazy like clickbait shock factor intro was just to highlight that we are recording this after our bar shift,
Yep.
where we did the craziest thing ever. We worked behind the bar.
That's the thing about it is like it was so crazy
Yeah.
that we did it.
Right.
You know?
Everybody's like owner takeover.
What's my margin of error? And be fair. Give me a margin of error.
Like I think it like it's,
I said 23. So do I get it?
No, you said 20.
He said 23.
He said 20.
I said 20. Grayson, play it back.
Grayson's our new editor.
To be clear, $20 for the whole 1.75 bottle.
It's not that cheap.
It's like $23 for that.
No, it's not.
Regardless, I think I said 23 afterwards.
Are you changing it now that you're looking at the price?
One way or another, what's my margin of error?
$2.
I was going to say 3.
Give me 5.
Oh, Riley.
$24.99 for a 1.75. That's a cheap rum. It's an amazing cheap rum.
Okay.
This podcast is not sponsored by Florida Caña 4-year rum extra seco.
What's Seco?
Dry.
I know.
Anyways, how was that experience for you guys? I know it must have kind of been a whirlwind.
Let's be clear. This was nothing new or different for Ethan. He probably worked the bar in Alpharetta like 2 weekends ago.
1 week ago.
Yeah.
I work in Dunwoody like 3 to 4 days a week.
Ethan, kicking it to you first as the host. What was different about working with us compared to our normal team? Were we worse?
Yes.
How were we worse?
You were slower. But you guys don't do the stuff as much.
Mhm.
So that's fine.
Yeah, but like how much slower? But were there good parts too? You were only putting out negatives all day about me.
You know I was saying positive things, dude. You're a beast on search. You're putting in orders accurately and well. Besides undercharging everybody for croissants, which, hey,
I was just being nice.
you're just generous. Yeah.
I'm the money guy.
Yeah, you're like, hey, here's an extra $1. You just like take $1 out of the door. Out of the drawer.
I would give them another
You're
$1.
like, hey, here's
It's a
another $1.
rebate.
No, I knew everybody was gonna have an awesome time. You know, I feel that way whenever I work, regardless. But yeah, I just look. I feel like I just had to like look around a little more. You know, but it was epic. You know,
I was thinking about how I am probably not that good anymore. And I was like getting kind of not in my head about that, but I was like, I wish I was better. But then the final thought I ended up actually believing is like, if I am better than these people, that's a bad thing. Like if I'm better than the pit crew
And never work. You never ever
that
work.
like that's a bad deal.
yeah,
Because that's what they do every day. Like that's their specialty.
yeah.
And I work behind the bar maybe once a quarter. Riley works behind the bar maybe once every 2 years.
Right. Yeah, so there's a lot more remakes and stuff like that. And we were, catching stuff, which is great. But it's like everything was as expected for people that are coffee shop adjacent, but not behind the bar. So it was an honor. It was fun for anybody that came in. So random. It was like the world's slowest day, though.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, we had the whole Alpharetta pit crew come in and serve them. That was definitely the highlight for me. Getting to
That
make
was so
drinks
cool.
for the squad that makes drinks
Yeah, it
for
was fun.
the community. And
It was
us.
so perfectly timed that they came in whenever I got up on surge. So it was really low stakes for me to find all the buttons again. Because that's what I was worried about, was like the folders and stuff.
All right.
And then they ordered a bunch of various drinks and I figured it out.
You nailed it, bro. Dude, but that Strata S steaming is epic.
Yeah. I like it a lot.
We were talking about it. I think that was my biggest takeaway from when I used to work behind the bar to now, is that all of our equipment is just way nicer.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it takes the pressure off of like something, because that's the thing. It's like when technology or like a piece of equipment is working well, you don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the definition. It's like your computer doesn't have to go out of its way to do something great for you to think it's a good computer. It just has to not mess up. And like no equipment messed up today. And
Strata messed up, but we got it replaced.
yeah. And years ago, like something probably messed up like every day.
For sure.
So,
Or even just like a drain clogging or, yeah. We're
I've
on
never
our way.
worked in Dunwoody where we put more money in, but I should work there one day and I'd probably feel the same way.
Yeah, did that make you want to like do it more? Or is it like,
Not that much more. Because, it's like,
which is kind of a good thing, is it's like, hey, this works.
yeah.
You know, it's
exactly.
not like, oh my gosh, this is so messed up. I'm going to need to like check in.
I honestly expected to go in and have more takeaways about things that needed to change. And there were some, like obviously, how could there not be?
Yeah, getting fresh eyes on the op.
Yeah,
It's great.
exactly. But really, I'm just like, this is a pretty dang good operation. And
Yeah.
that's a good place to be. Maybe like once every 6 months or something, which would be way more than what I've done for sure. But, even there today, I'm just like, have a backlog of things that I need to be doing that make us money company wide more
Yes,
so.
every time you take a vacation, just cut your vacation short one day.
That's a good
and
idea.
come work behind the bar.
Great idea.
Shout out Savvy for the bacon, egg, and cheese everything bagels.
That was
Come
everything.
on. Yeah, that was our fuel. That was our lifeline out there. Shout out Kent, got behind the bar with us. Got to shout him out every episode now.
Shout out Luke. We haven't shouted you out in a little while, so shout out.
Appreciate you, Luke.
Hey, shout out Lil B for running a great cafe and we got in there. And it was baller.
We had septic poop water.
Oops. Again.
Anyways, we had poop water fall from the ceiling in our bathroom yesterday.
Because we're above a bathroom. Bathrooms
Or
in
below a
buildings, oh yeah. They're typically stacked.
They're typically stacked. That's what most people might not know. But yeah, poop water, fell through the ceiling. Ceiling tiles are cooked.
Compromised, yeah.
And Lil B called me and told me about it yesterday. She was like, we sterilized the area thoroughly. And that's kind of crazy. Like, what do you say? What do you say in that moment as an owner where you're like, something like kind of really rough happens, like poop water falling from the ceiling, and then just your employees are there, and you're like, I'm like at home working from home.
You're like clickety.
I'm like clickety clack, and she's over there like, we just got smackety smacked
Right. Oh, wow.
by poop
Go
water. And I was like, wow, thank you.
It's an interesting place to be because you're an owner, but you have a general manager.
Right.
But you're not a bad guy. So you're not going to be like, whatever, you're the general manager, because that would make you a bad guy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, she's taking ownership of the space, and you're deeply appreciative.
She called me after it was completely taken care of.
Just to like let you know.
Yeah. Because like she wanted to make sure that we didn't think anything looked or smelled weird. So that was pretty goated.
It was epic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have goated leaders right now. Very grateful. Very grateful.
Well, we're not drinking coffee right now.
I had too much coffee.
We drink a lot of coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. I don't know about
I
you
stayed
guys.
dialed in, baby.
I drink coffee. I drink a lot of decaf.
Hey, can I shout out the coffee we did drink that was brought to us by an awesome guy named Phil,
Yeah.
listener of the pod. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Phil.
From
Hey, Phil.
Boca Raton. Maine coffee roasted by Brandywine. Ethiopia. I don't know any of the specs.
Was that the one you brewed for us?
That was the one I brewed for us. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, brewed it up iced, split it up 3 ways. Kind of looked like we were drinking a Belgian brown ale or something, but it was in like these weird wine glasses. But I love drinking coffee out of weird glasses. Oh, it fires me up.
Oh.
It was crazy, man. Very like funky coffee. High astringency, a lot of fruit. It's fun. So thank you, Phil. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil. But we're not drinking coffee. However, we do have to mention
If we were,
if we were,
you know how we'd brew
it
it up.
would be brewed with third wave water.
We'd be sipping on some vibrant brews.
60% better every time. Third wave water has changed my life.
Don't cry.
I think I've run through since Expo, like, because I got a lot of packets at Expo. Guilty. Probably, I don't know, 10 gallons of distilled water at home. Probably getting there.
You still like not
Are you
walk into the
serious?
Yeah.
Oh my
This
god.
man loves
cap.
coffee.
Love coffee.
Well, you're home 4 days a week?
My wife makes coffee
Annually?
every day. Sometimes we make decaf at night.
Oh my
Decaf
god.
espresso?
No.
Little
Decaf-
cappuccino?
Not that
Espresso
cappuccino. We usually decaf drip. I'm not saying I wouldn't make decaf espresso.
If we came to your house, would you make a decaf espresso with ice cream?
If you came to my house, I'd make you whatever you wanted.
You can have whatever you like.
The odds of that happening are so low that I don't have to worry
Hey,
about
no,
it.
we're going to your house for Little Bee's
Tomorrow night?
anniversary.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, put it on the calendar.
Yeah, well, anyways, third wave water, very great. A couple weeks ago, last week, I don't know, we checked our water TDS and it kind of blew our minds what third wave water does to just distilled water compared to even our water here in getting that mineral count way up. And you can tell why it makes the coffee taste better.
That's kind of how extraction works.
Yeah.
Minerals extract. the
Minerals
coffee.
help. Classic light roast profile is our favorite.
Goated.
Use the espresso profile at home on my flare.
Oops.
Caleb, today I was like to our tech, our espresso tech, Caleb
/ best friend.
/ best friend.
/ confidant.
I was like, dude, have I told you that I have a flare at home? And he was like, I think you've told everyone. And I was like, Caleb,
That was cold,
that's
bro.
cold, dude.
Ash move.
Yet smooth.
And props, that's pretty smooth. But I do use the espresso profile through the flare, and it's sick.
Dude, does this talk about how it won't scale your machine?
Yeah, dude, tell us what you were talking to the Espresso Tech boys about scaling and minerals and because it's well documented on this program.
I said, boys, on the program, we tested our water, and I think our mineral count is low, and we want to remineralize. What says you? And they were like, no, it's going to hurt the machines. And I was like, okay,
What?
yeah.
So we need to
They're listening right now.
to
Come on,
sprinkle
guys.
just a little bit third wave water in like the espresso pucks and like the drip baskets, the brewing baskets, so they'll hit then.
It's just like a Cubano shot with sugar, but with third wave
With
water.
like calcium and magnesium.
Yeah.
You want a magnesium shot?
I mean,
Mag shot?
I'll tell you what's going to happen is we're going to have the boys from Third Wave Water on the program, and we're just going to talk water. We're going to have a water sode.
Water cast.
Yeah. And
Will there be water guns?
maybe we can get them and then someone from Bronny's, and they can like fight about like
Espresso Tech
like,
versus
machine.
water.
Yeah.
Per scientist.
Water scientist. But I do love Third Wave Water. Guilty.
Yeah.
Everyone who uses it likes it.
Yeah.
So if you want to try it
What
yourself,
about the people that don't use it? Are they like, this is a gimmick?
I mean,
Who's calling it a gimmick?
maybe.
Well, I
Because
think
it's the thing you think about the least. Water compared to the sexy stuff like grinders and espresso machines and
Latte art.
and perfect pressure tampers like
auto combs,
auto combs.
kettles,
Those are the things that
Aprons,
that
burrs.
people are making YouTube videos about.
mustaches.
Nobody's making YouTube videos about this.
No one
We're like
except us.
we're like way ahead of the pack right now.
Yeah. So Third Wave Water. Use code Valor at checkout for 10% off.
Well, guys, I just get the pleasure of being in the cafes, as you know. And since you've worked a bar shift, I thought it'd be very apt to talk about barista service stuff. But shout out to me running into people that listen to the podcast in the cafes. And I'm always like, hey, what do you like hearing on the podcast? What do you want to hear more of? Ran into some awesome people, Mercy and Rachel from Night Swim a couple weeks ago. Shout out Night Swim, Charlotte, North Carolina. We see you and we appreciate you. They're like maybe like a barista's do's and don'ts, like kind of behavior. I was thinking like, how does that? How do we like valorify that? And I was like, oh my gosh, we do culture orientation all the time for wholesale people, for newcomers, for people growing in leadership. I was like, we literally have things called service philosophies. So as Valor, we have 5 core values. And then under those core values, we have a little bit more hands-on, practical service philosophies. And we have, countless. But I was like, let's just talk about, I don't know, 3. It seems like a good number. There's 3 of us here, 3 ounces of Florida Cagna. Let's see what happens. And I have like a billion in my head, but maybe thinking about today, let's think about first impressions.
I love it.
That's one of our first big service philosophies is guest first impressions. That's kind of our business, right? Being in the cafe, like what you see when you walk in is kind of the initial imprint of your experience. Yeah. Better make it a good one, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So in orientation, we're always like, what are the variables at play when it comes to someone assessing their first impression? Go. What do you guys got? What's coming to mind? What are you looking at?
Can I start with a negative about our Alpharetta space?
Yeah.
People walk in and they want to know where to go.
Oh.
And in our Alpharetta space, that's kind of hard.
It's too small.
It's too small. The register is tucked in the corner. So oftentimes people walk in, get confused, and walk towards the espresso machine, and we have to say something. And to our chagrin, I think it kind of makes people feel a little silly.
To make it even worse, we have the gall to greet them when they walk in, and they're like, "Oh, someone's directing
Like from the espresso machine.
the espresso bar."
Yeah,
right.
Which is a good guest first impression.
Yeah.
Maybe we just stop that.
Hey, if pastries weren't as like a demand, it wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to turn that like where we have that first iPad into the register, because there was a day, this is so tangential, I'm so sorry.
We're dreaming.
I was working with Gavin. You guys know Gavin.
Yeah.
It's 7:30 a.m. It's kind of chill. And this guy is drinking his cappuccino. He's like, oh crap, I'm from New York. And we're like, oh no.
The city?
Yeah,
He
New York
said,
City.
"Oh crap, I'm from New York."
He said something like that. He's like, I'm trying to get an Uber to my like meeting, but it's going to take 40 minutes to get to the Avalon. Is that close? And I was like, yeah, it's super close. And then I was like, he's like, can one of you guys give me a ride? And I was like, Gavin, you want to give this dude a ride? And I'll hold it down. So I start solo barring, and I'm like, I really could do this. And of course, that's when the line forms, right?
Bro, I've never heard this story.
This
is amazing.
It was a couple months ago. Nothing crazy.
You're like, bro, take off or run in. You'll be there in 20 minutes.
Yeah. Take the Alpha Loop.
Alpha Loop, baby.
Let's go. City development.
So I was like, I really could like make drinks and take orders. they're so far from each other.
Yeah.
But I'm like, not that I feel like it's just lame to have one person working, but if things ever turned that way, we could turn that little right next to the espresso machine. Get a grinder right there. You got a little one-man show.
It totally should be. I mean, realistically, we need like a picture for people who are watching of our Alpharetta Cafe. But
If you know, you know.
realistically, the espresso machine should be at the front of the space and the register should just be further back so that a line can more easily form inside as well. Like chrome yellow style almost.
You're always comparing us to Chrome Yellow.
It's because you used to work there.
Yeah.
Practically ran that place. 10 years. Oh, anyways, first impressions. Okay, so you're saying like specifically our space, how confused are you? Direction might just be a first impression, like clarity and direction. Does that fit well?
It's almost dadgum near perfect.
I think at the heart of even that is empathy.
Whoa.
Wow.
And one of our core values.
He choked up.
Excuse me.
He always cries when he starts talking about empathy.
Put empathy into action is one of our core values, and this service philosophy, guest first impressions, is under or affiliated with the put empathy into action value. And really, what we're after in this service philosophy is putting ourselves in the shoes of the guest that's walking up to the door, and along the lines of what you're saying, Riley, about someone feeling like they're in the right place. Anyone listening, I'm not sure if you've ever walked into a service establishment and you open the door and you're like kind of confused as to how the whole operation works. Like, do I sit down first? Am I seated by someone else? Do I place my order at the counter?
Do I order myself? That is a big question nowadays. Do I put the order in myself?
On a tablet or something?
On a tablet.
That's crazy.
Because the square screen flips around. So a lot of times it can get stuck around. Because I'll be like, hey, finish this out. I'm going to go get your drip.
Yeah.
And
right.
Next thing you know, someone's putting in an order.
And what we want in that, while someone's thinking those things, maybe even subconsciously, we want them to be like, oh, there's a nice human, looking right at me right now, offering themselves to me. Maybe you do that through a smile. Maybe you do that through eye contact. Maybe you do that by never having your back to the door and always physically orienting yourself towards the door, no matter what you're doing in the space. And the guest sees that kind pit crew member and is like, that person's got my back. And maybe even like when a guest walks towards the production bar and they're kind of confused as to how the whole thing works, maybe the expo that's standing there that greets them is like, hey, you can actually place your order right over there. So in that sort of worst case scenario of someone not knowing how the space works, we still want to make them feel like, hey, we got you. You're not just alone in the world right now.
I wonder if this would cause any division, because I'm thinking, and what you're saying as well, it's just as easy to solo bar if you just get the little portable square situation and just put it over there beside the espresso machine. And you're like, I'm going to do this solo. You know what I'm saying? Could do that. So what if we kept that over there at all times? And when people come in and walk straight over there, instead of redirecting them to the front,
Telling them they're wrong. And dumb.
We just take their order right there. Is that crazy? Because then you're like, okay, you have that same thing with like not correcting guests about certain drinks, and they come in there next time and they do it the same way.
Right.
You could run into that, but maybe you wouldn't.
You could run into line cutters.
Yes.
But I see the point. I think part of what you're getting at is, I don't know if this is a service philosophy of ours or just something we've talked about over the years, but trying to minimize guests feeling like subconsciously dumb. Like, and it's not like someone's going to come to the wrong side of the cafe and be like, oh, I'm dumb. I'm not safe here. I don't like it. Like, they're not going to consciously think that. But that's the whole thing about first impressions, is it's all subconscious. Like, we talk about in orientation, the 5 senses that someone has, how they're able to take in the world around them. So how can we, in each one of those 5 senses, use empathy, put ourselves in their shoes, and in their first impression, go above and beyond in each one of their senses. So like in their sight, how does the cafe look? Are all the chairs pushed in? Are the tables bussed? Is the floor mopped? Is it clean? Okay, what about smell? What does it smell like in there? Is there a nice Maison Louis Marie candle? Number 9. Number 4.
You were number 9.
I used to. Then it ran out.
It's expensive.
Point is, we want it to smell good.
How's the music?
How's the music? How's it sound?
Can I interrupt something and then we'll come back to the music and the
Did anybody
sound?
give you a high five? Oh,
I'm so sorry. I just want to say the last thing on the whole register placement.
Dude.
Listen, okay? I've got one more idea. I was thinking about this today when it happened.
you were today years old.
I was today years old when I thought about this. Someone walks in, it comes over. If there's not a line, the easiest thing to do is to let them talk first. Because, I mean, they come in, you say, hey, how's it going? They come up and you're like, what you got going on today or something like that. They will naturally take the conversation to, you guys got a menu? And then that is your funnel to be like, oh yeah, right over here. It's just up here at the front. That's more of a much more easy transition than like, oh, you can actually order at the front.
And so that's your first word.
Yeah. And, or if they know what they want and there isn't a line and they're just like, I want a latte to go. You can then be like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just going to walk you right over here to Ross. Hey, Ross, they want a latte to go. And then Ross is already punching it in.
That totally happens all the time. The team does a great job. They're like, that's amazing. I'm going to start making it. You'll just go tell Ross over here what you got.
Yeah.
And it'll maybe be ready by the time you're done.
And then if there's not much of a line, if the team member themselves tells Ross, I think that's...
Yeah.
It's nice.
And people like come up to Expo because they're often like an available looking person because they're right at the lip of the counter just like doing a task by themselves. And so a lot of times someone is just like coming to ask a question. So instead of having this weird, your first thing you say is you order up front. It's like, oh, I was just asking for the Wi-Fi password. And it's like, I think everybody understands just to be available at the bar for anything and then see where it goes. It's a great point, Riley.
That's something I heard Cat and Cloud talk about. I don't know if it was on one of their podcasts or one of their clips or whatever. And I think they may have got this from Disney because I know that Jared, who's been on the program, is a big Disney guy.
Nice to say that. And Disney got it from, sorry.
Yeah. Basically, you know, when you're in Disney World, there's a lot of people walking around, yeah?
6 or 7, yeah.
6 to 7.
And maybe a dozen on the
maybe
weekend.
even half a dozen or more.
Baker's dozen.
Half a dozen. 6 again.
We're back.
Half a baker's dozen.
6.5. Hey, there it is.
Perfect.
All right, you're at Disney World. We're with you, man. We're with you.
We're at Disney World, all 3 of us.
Now there's like 8.
Dream come true.
8 or 9.
Okay. You're at Disney World, and if you work at Disney World, if you work at Disney World, okay, just pretend like.
All right.
Wait, we're not at Disney World. We're working at Disney World.
Can I be like Buzz Lightyear, like in the costume?
Man,
Who are you?
I'm honestly having a hard time. Who's a non-character? Like, what do you do?
I mean, they're all called cast members.
Everyone?
Yes.
It's like
And-
we're all pit crew.
And you could be like a janitor, like sweeping up stuff.
I love the little dustpan thing.
But they know everything about the park.
Okay, point is,
That's it.
whenever a guest of Disney World walks past you within a certain radius, like there's a number, like a 3 feet radius or whatever, you offer yourself to them physically, and you could even greet them. like come give daddy a big hug, you know? Not really. Man, okay. I'm kind of delirious right now.
It's like
honestly.
the Ritz thing. Is that what you're saying?
It's like
that's the Horst Schultz thing, big time.
Yeah, it's the same deal.
Schultze?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ford Fry's wife told us.
Schultze.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
name drop.
Stacy.
Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you, Stacey.
Thanks for being a listener.
We know you're listening.
Dude, that's huge. Honestly, that is a service philosophy of ours. Similarly, under fun and focused, it's invite guests into the fun. And there really is like that. If you're talking like barista do's and don'ts, that's probably a big call out to our industry as a whole. Is barista do's and don'ts. What? I would love for that to be the title of this. That'd be Epic. Hey, listen, what you said was awesome. And I think that's important.
Thank you.
Inviting guests into the fun is part of just being available, but it's that we're always talking about this because the busier our cafes get, the skinnier our crews get, and we're trying to run a smart business. It gets harder and harder to have your eyes up, while you're fulfilling a task. It is. I'm sure you guys can relate. You're trying to make the seasonal drinks for the first time.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to hold a fun, light, bantery conversation with Todd on his way to work.
Yeah.
But there's just something about being available for someone. But in our role, you can't stop what you're doing for the most part. And there's above and beyond moments or a really I need to stop what I'm doing moment. But for the most part, we're moving and grooving, hands and feet are rolling, but we're locked into our guests.
Right. Yeah. And I think there can be this this perception from a barista that is, hey, customer, notice I didn't say guest. Don't talk to me while I'm making drinks.
Especially while I'm pouring latte.
Especially when it's busy.
Especially when it's busy. Can't you see I'm busy? And I understand that, how that's, it's harder.
You always say, I understand twice.
Do I?
Yeah, there's 2 reels of you where you're like, I understand. I understand.
Oh, starting the next sentence?
Yeah. And I love it.
I got to check this out.
Keep being you, dude.
Hey.
I don't have any other choice.
Everyone else is taken, Ross.
Listen, I understand. I understand why.
Did that feel right?
Yes.
That's epic.
Why it's harder to make drinks while someone is talking to you, especially a more developed, deep conversation. But what if you could just be better?
Wait, what?
What if you could just know your stuff more and be like, hey, there's a higher level of barista acumen? Is that a good word?
Oh, yeah.
That is
That's cogent.
Is that a cogent use of acumen? There's a higher level of skill that I can master, which is being able to talk to people and crush drink, which today I'm not there. I was not there.
No.
When I'm on Expo and I'm making drinks, if anything weird comes in, I've got to look at it twice to make sure I don't screw it up.
You got to go.
Yeah. But a good barista can just look at it and be like, okay, that thing's locked.
But how much does that speak to how all of this isn't that hard if you just care a little bit and have something like service philosophies that we know off the top of our head to fall back on? Because pretty much everyone that came into that cafe today had a good experience. And we suck. And they still had a good experience. So it's if you care.
Riley was just pointing at Ross, by the way.
Yeah. Me and Ross suck. Ethan doesn't suck. If we can provide that just because we want people to have a good experience and we want to be good at what we're doing, I mean, that's really just a problem, is that a lot of people just don't care. It's just a lack of care.
Well, it's a lack of care and a lack of standard industry-wide, company-wide, whatever, of what's good enough for this position.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, it's just learn how to make the drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Or do latte art.
And call out the name.
And say the name when you're done.
Yeah.
So it's what are you, because most people in this industry are capable of so much more. Some people, that can be really hard for some people, and it's not their shtick, hospitality. There's a lot of awesome people that just don't want to be in hospitality. But if you're in it and you're I want to grow, if you have a group around you that's pushing to that end, I think it's pretty easy to get there. Like you're saying, it's just who's saying what the line is, right?
Yeah. In both of our cafes, the expo station, which if anyone out there doesn't know what we mean by that, expo is just where the steam wand and the milk pitcher rinser is, where we make and finish the drinks. Both of our expo stations in both of our cafes are intentionally positioned to where there's guests that can kind of wait around that area and like watch their drink be made. And inevitably you're faced with this moment when you're on expo, which is I'm making a drink for someone and they're standing right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not like talking to anyone on the team. And I have a choice right now of whether or not I'm going to socially reach out to this person in front of me while I make this drink or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do it every time today because, like I said, I was like feeling rusty and I was like, I'm trying not to screw up this drink.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever you're making someone's drink and you're talking to them just about whatever's going on in their life, or if it's their first time at our space, or like where they're from, or just making a connection, you're making their drink at the same time as that. Like that is a way better experience. And some people just want to be left alone. It's important to say that. And we need to be able to judge that. Someone's just like deep in AirPod world and they're reading a book. It's like, you don't have to be like, hey, over here.
Tell
like,
me about yourself.
How's your day going? And they're like, what? And you're like, how's your day going? Yeah. Like we don't have to do that. But it's
Good
really
point.
just, it's like, I'll speak for myself. It's like, if I've noticed in my own work, it's just laziness whenever I'm making someone's drink and I don't reach out to them because it's easier not to.
Yeah, what's the path of least resistance in that moment? It's like,
Right.
get the drink done, give it to them.
Yeah. And if we're really after memorable experiences, what do you remember about an experience? There's a Maya Angelou quote we've talked about multiple times on this program. My mom kind of like made us aware of it, and it's in our orientation. And it's a classic quote, which is, people will forget what you did, what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that's certainly true of our cafes and our wholesale and our e-commerce, every part of our company. And so we talk about that quote a lot in our value, put empathy into action, because it's all about empathy, that quote is. And if you make a connection with someone because you simply just reached out to them, that's what's going to lead to them remembering the experience. They might forget the drink. Mm-hmm. They might forget the music that was on. They might forget the color of the paint on the walls, but they won't forget how you made them feel when you were offering yourself to them socially while you were making their drink. Is it easier not to? Yes. But why does that matter when we're trying to be excellent? Like, and that's back to what you said, like, are we trying to be excellent? Are we caring? So it might sound like hardball to be like, no one cares. Like, that's why our industry has such low standards, because like we just don't care. It's like, well, we may not care about hospitality to the extent that we could. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, you care about something. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's just the most common thing is just care about ourselves. We're just trying to get through the shift. And that's when we talk about inviting guests into fun, that's honestly one of the biggest combatants is that we have so much stuff going on. We're like, especially I was reflecting on this with our industry of coffee. It's like these young people figuring out their lives. They got so much like transient nature junk going on, really trying to figure out who and what they want to be for the rest of their lives. So sometimes I can just sit up here in the dome and next thing you know, 4 hours went by and you're like, oh, I've just been doing dishes and pulling shots all day. It's like, oh, okay, well, what am I doing here? Am I just here to fulfill these tasks, or am I trying to take care of people and like make these memorable moments? Because I don't think a lot of people walk into work, especially in the coffee industry, and they're like, I'm going to make some memorable moments today. And it's like, I'm going to do my job, which is to make the drinks and call out the names. And a lot of times myself, you find me somewhere in the middle, it's like maybe I'm hot for an hour.
Yeah.
And I get kind of tired. I get kind of like hungry. I'm just thinking about my break and like trying to figure out if my wife's going to come by and we're going to get lunch or something. I'm just thinking about something else. And then even to the point when we're talking about inviting guests into fun, there's this challenge at play of when you have like new teams or new team members, you're like trying to bond and get to know each other. I was talking to some of the people at Dunwoody about this. It's like, I want to share about like my life and my family and like be human with them, because that really strengthens the team and like what we're capable of. But I'm like, if we just talk about that a lot behind the bar, every time that I'm talking about myself, I'm not focusing on a guest. So there's just probably dozens of guests that are getting a less than experience while I'm doing another good thing, which is hard to balance. But that's why it's fun. So we did like a Dunwoody deep clean last night, just get to like hang out with the team and have dinner and scrub the floor together, and you just get to like talk a little bit more like chill.
Yeah.
Or like all staffs or volleyball nights or stuff like that. So it's cool to have those moments as well. Cause, there's a lot of good in team bonding, but sometimes it can be at the detriment to the guest.
Right.
I think we've talked a lot about, and it's easy to go to a place with guest first impressions of like literally someone's first time in a space.
Mm-hmm.
But something I noticed today that our team had done for a guest who has been into our cafe, our guest who was certified fact the biggest spender in our cafe, at least for one of the years, they wrote a like note card that was like, this customer's birthday is on Friday, and they had it like stuck to something beside the register.
Oh, no way.
And it was just so every team member can see that and know that his birthday is coming up on Friday, so that whenever he walks into the cafe on Friday, the first thing that can happen is they tell him happy birthday.
And they're definitely not thinking this guy's our biggest spender. Of
No,
20.
heck no. They're just like, oh, this
guy's
we
in
know
everything.
him. Like, he's not just like a transaction. So like they know about his life and stuff. So, another thing that you did today is someone was walking in the cafe. This happened several times. You're like, oh, this guy's name is Keith. And you'd like tell us that before they got in. And that's like a first impression thing. And it reminded me of the like 11 Madison Park knowing who you are because they stalk your Instagram before you come in thing. I'm not afraid to do a little bit of that,
Yeah, I'm not afraid of Instagram. This brings up a really funny point that we've got hit with. Remember we talked about this concept of being accused of being psychosocial. I mean, I don't really know the definition of that.
What is that?
It was like you're being nice to a like ulterior motive, or like to a different end. You're like doing it to get tips, or like doing it to make a name. I don't know. But I'm like, sure, that's a really good question to ask of like, why am I letting Ross know this guy's name? So I'm thinking that he'll like leave a tip, or I'm thinking he will be like a better lifetime customer. No. Are those byproducts? Yes. The main thing is like, I want that guy to feel seen, cared for, and related to in our space, because that's like what we're doing is we're trying to uplift this man. And I'm like, I know this guy's name. I'm going to share his name with Ross so that he can like make him feel more seen in this place that he likes to go to.
Yeah.
And to put more context around that specifically, I'm not as good with names as you are. And you were like, you know him. And I was like, yeah, I do know him, but I totally wouldn't have known his name.
Yeah, because you served him like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I had a lot of that today. I felt bad asking for names a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's human, man. I gotta, especially jump between cafes. There's a lot of names floating around. It's usually like I'm like halfway through the order. I'm like, Anna, good to see you. There it is.
So invite guests into the fun.
Yeah.
Guest first impressions.
I think a good one to talk about is don't panic, or we just say we don't panic. That's under the core value of better together. We're going to say the health of the team is the most important thing. And I'm pretty sure most to all coffee shops have rushes at some point in the day. For us, a lot of times that can be a lot of the day. Like today, it was just for like a couple hours. But a rush is a really good experience to apply pressure to your system or operation and see what comes out, like how good is this system? How well can 3 people work right now? And so based on how good you are and your system and your shop is, that can show how well you can handle a rush, and maybe how quickly you can move through a rush. And so what we always try to push is like, hey, we believe in this system. We're always refining this system, but we feel good about making drinks for people, and we feel good about getting drinks out, and we feel good about busting it, and we feel good about not wearing that all over our faces like but it is crazy though. Like sometimes we're just so busy, and I'm like, there are people in line that have places to be and they wish that they didn't have to wait in line. Isn't that crazy? I'm like, they're not maybe pumped about this. And I need to show them that I'm working as hard as I can. And I need to show them that I'm not freaking out, so they have to like wear my anxiety. That is a tricky line, honestly. I've been dealing with that more and more, especially in Dunwoody, where the line can really fill up the whole cafe before it goes outside. You can get a good handful of people in there, and you got to like run drinks through and around them. And you're like, man, I want to interact with you, but I also know that you just want me to make the coffee, you know? But in all of that, trusting the system and being like, we got this. This is epic. This is like how we're all going to pay for our yachts, is this rush.
Right.
This one rush.
Yeah. And so you're talking about how like the system can and does work when it's slow and when it's busy. At the same time, though, like stuff does happen where you spill a gallon of lavender vanilla syrup on the floor, and you've got a huge mess, sticky mess
Stinky mess.
Huge mess, sticky mess in the middle of a rush. And
huge is sticky, and sticky is slow.
Yeah.
And slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. So
It's actually good.
dump that lavender vanilla on the floor.
That's logic, baby.
And I think it's kind of an interesting thing to tell someone, don't panic. Like, don't feel that. Is sort of like usually something you don't want to say. But I think the heart behind that is that when we don't panic, we can identify the problem.
Go there.
Boys.
We can
and then we can act. And then we can learn the dial method. We can not panic or don't panic. Because when you're panicking, you can't identify the problem. Because you're just like, you panic, I can't see anything. But if you just like slow down enough to not panic, take a breath, then you can be like, okay, this is the problem. And then here are all the problems because of that problem. And then how can I like solve the big one and then delegate to all the ones that I don't have time to solve for. And then you act and do it. And then you learn. Maybe don't pour the lavender vanilla standing on your head next time. Maybe don't do
Dial.
that.
Don't pour the lavender vanilla.
Instead, pour it normally. A, actually, it's pretty cool to pour it upside down. L,
take the L because you messed up.
Yeah. Dial. Yeah, and just anytime someone is feeling panicky behind the bar, just be like, hey, we're good. We don't panic. We got this.
Just coffee.
I think you need little simple things like that when you're behind the bar in a rush just to cling on to and be like, hey, we don't panic.
I was telling you guys to lock in and stay dialed a lot today, and I think it really helped.
You never actually said lock in during any moment of busyness. Only whenever there was like one ticket on the K.
We gotta stay locked in at all times. Good point. Good point. You guys were locked in.
How you do one thing is how you do everything.
How you do one thing is how you do.
Guys, we gotta wrap this.
Hey, that was 3. What were they? Guess first impressions.
I wasn't listening.
Invite guests into the fun.
Are you having fun? We didn't even go there, but
right now. Oh, no. Like on the bar? Yeah,
Right now, no. On the bar,
I know
yes.
you're having fun, Ross. And we don't panic. I hope you don't panic as well.
I hope you're not panicking because we're about to end this podcast.
Hey, Ross, you excited to go on vacation?
Yes. I'm going to go on a bit of holiday.
You're gonna go on holiday, dude?
A bit of holiday.
Wow.
I guess we'll hold it down while you're gone.
Yeah. What do you think me and Ethan are gonna talk about?
I think we're gonna try to like ruin all of the wholesale partnerships
Yes. If you're a wholesale partner and you want your relationship to be ruined, reach out to me or Ethan.
Well, I think I might, for the first time in my career, use the whole like email auto reply thing.
Out of office.
Yeah. Maybe like contact
'Cause-
Lyndon with anything.
Yeah, because Homeboy gets a
you,
lot
Dan.
of emails.
Yeah.
And they are all time sensitive. So I might just kind of send them your
What do
way.
you think it'll say? You think it'll say like, I'm not going to respond, reach out to my boys? Or is it going to be like, I'll respond if I can?
Well, I know that you're going to be in my inbox anyways, because you stay in my inbox.
Touche.
And I love it. I've got nothing to hide.
I know. It's just holding you accountable. Sometimes I see something before you do and it's an emergency.
Yeah, it's true.
Are
Anyways,
you in my inbox?
Hell yeah.
Why? There's nothing good there.
I know. Yours
they're
is
just
boring.
invoices.
Mine's like, here, pay this, and hey, can I have a job? That's all I do. I'm accounts payable, baby.
It's like subject, job.
job. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. Hey, I love you guys. You guys are epic. Thank you for working behind the bar.
Dude, today was epic, and I'm going to hang up now.
See you guys next week.
Guys, all skibbity.
No toilet.